Barbie, the album, is the accompanying soundtrack to the film titled Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig. I talked about the movie a little bit in my Barbenheimer video, a review for it. Love the film, one of my favorites of this year so far. And I'm just now getting to the soundtrack, the entire soundtrack that was made alongside the film. I had heard numerous songs from it leading up to its release, singles that came out, and then, of course, hearing the songs in the movie itself. So I really was actually familiar with approximately half of this project here, but still wanted to give the whole thing a listen and see how I felt about it as a whole. I'm going to take these off too because you can see like the lights that I use in them reflecting off the glasses. So there, now you guys, I mean, you might still be able to see it kind of, but this was kind of just giving away too much of what's behind the camera. I actually did have a bandana once. I'm trying to put on my best Ken look here. I did have a bandana I wanted in a random draw at this thing I was at that I don't need to get into specifics about, but I just don't wear bandanas, so I threw it out. But now I'm really regretting that. That would have been perfect to have this to complete the look, or part of the look. But I mean, I think this is enough. I remember thinking that some of the songs that were present in the movie that are on this soundtrack fit very well with some of the scenes that they were used for in the film, in the context of what was happening in those scenes. And I was just curious to see how the rest of the soundtrack would play out, hearing the songs that didn't make it into the film, because obviously there isn't room for all the soundtrack tracks, because there's also the musical score that has to be involved in the film too. So there's going to be some stuff that just doesn't make the cut. We start things off, I think, very well with the track Pink, performed by Lizzo. I'm liking the funky, almost disco-esque instrumental on this track, and the lyrics I do get a bit of enjoyment out of now. Initially, when I heard this song before seeing the movie, I was really off-put by it and thought it was incredibly cheesy, and it kind of took me out of the song. But now, with context of when this is in the film, it's like, okay, I get it, it's funny, it serves its purpose pretty well. It's a cool song. Dance the Night by Dua Lipa, I think, is another great song on here. Just a great pop song in general. Really good, catchy, hooky lyrics. Fantastic production. Also kind of a throwback feel to this one. I'm really loving the bass line on here. Also, I didn't notice it first couple times I heard it, but there's this very quiet, subtle guitar strumming during the verses of the song. That's just a very nice touch, I think. I like Dua's vocals a lot in this song too, and I really find that part interesting when she says, "When my heart breaks, they never see it." It is even more interesting, I think, in the context of the film and knowing some of the things that the character Barbie does go through at moments. Barbie Road is the next song, performed by Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice, and it's featuring Aqua, but mainly just because the original Barbie Girl song by Aqua is sampled in the song, kind of played throughout in the background. This, I think, is a pretty fun song. It's very safe, certainly very derivative to kind of just a typical drill beat at the core. But I think the use of the sample is pretty okay, and I am enjoying Nicki and Ice Spice's delivery in the song quite a bit, and especially Nicki Minaj. In that first verse when she says, "Yelling out, we ain't selling out," and then just the rest of that verse, I love her flow with that part. That tear she goes on, I think, is really cool. And there are tons of other kind of funny and cheesy one-liners in the song relating to Ken and Barbie that I think are fun. The next track we have is Speed Drive, performed by Charlie XCX, which is actually one of my favorites on this entire soundtrack. This does an interpolation of Tony Basil's Hey Mickey. Also a fairly generic song, nothing that we haven't heard before. A pretty derivative electropop beat to it as well. But I'm enjoying Charlie's vocals on this one a lot, and I think she does the Hey Mickey interpolation pretty well. And it's energetic, it's fun, it's short. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Following this, we have a string of songs, though, that I find to be little underwhelming. First one is Watati with Karol G and Aldo Ranks. This one has a pretty safe and generic reggaeton beat to it. Some kind of interesting vocal performances, though, especially from Aldo Ranks that were cool. Don't get much more out of it beyond that, though. Man I Am has some pretty interesting parts to it. I think this is performed by Sam Smith. I like the chorus of this a lot, like his vocals in the chorus and just the sound of the song. I think is very fitting for the lyrics as well. But he also does the sort of low octave vocals as well in some of the verses. I feel like he's trying to riff off of what Abel was doing in Dawn FM and just not doing it nearly as well, in my opinion. And then there's Journey to the Real World, which is basically a little interlude on the soundtrack, and I like it. I'm enjoying Kevin Parker's production on here. It's Tame Impala, so he's behind the production, of course. It's a cool song. I like the sound of it, but it's just so short. I do wish it was longer. It wasn't just a minute and a half long. Kind of a disappointment there for me. But then we have I'm Just Ken by Ryan Gosling, and this song is honestly fantastic in my opinion. Memes aside, jokes aside, Ken puns and jokes put aside, this is actually a very, very good song, I think. I don't really love Ryan Gosling's voice, to be honest. If there's one nitpick, just don't love his singing voice that much, but I do think it fits the song fairly well, and he's clearly into it, and he's in character as Ken doing the song, so I will give him props for that. He's definitely selling it very well. But man, just the journey that this song goes through, instrumentally speaking, it really feels to me like if Meatloaf were still alive and were asked to write a song for Barbie, I feel like this is what it would come out to. It really is like this big, grand rock opera. Some great changes and shifts that we go throughout the song, especially the middle passage. I really like a lot, and I'm loving some of the synth work we get here. The guitar work and solos that appear are really nice, and the drums sound great too. Just an awesome song in general. Chorus is great. Yeah, really into I'm Just Ken. We take a bit of a break after this though with the track Hey Blondie, performed by Dominic Fike, which I think is a pretty cute and enjoyable song. We have some fun guitar parts and brush drums in it. It's kind of a folk and alternative rock fusion, and it's pretty pleasant. I like it. Home, performed by Haim, I think is an okay song. I think there is potential here for it to be better. It sort of reminds me of Masterminds off of Midnight's by Taylor Swift. It kind of has a similar build and development throughout the track. Some good vocals here and there. I get what it is trying to do and how it's trying to make us feel, but I just don't really feel satisfied with it. I feel like it's just leading up and building up to something, but never really hitting its stride, so to speak. After this is What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful song. I'm really loving Billie's vocals on this one too. I know people sometimes complain about her whispery, soft singing, but I feel like it just sounds so great here, and her singing just is amazing in this song. I feel like it's never been better, and she's just getting better and sounding so good. A softly performed piano on here is a great touch too, and we get these very subtle string and brass embellishments later on in the track that are very quiet, but just bring so much more to the song than what was there at the beginning. And some of the lyrics on this one I think are very powerful with context to Barbie in the film, talking about how she used to float, now she just falls, and I'm sad, don't tell my boyfriend. I mentioned in my Barbenheimer video that there was a part towards the end of Barbie where I started to get a little emotional, and it was when this song was playing, combined with hearing the song and what was happening in the scene. It was very moving for me. We do have a couple of pretty big misses though after this, in my opinion. Forever and Again by Kid Laroi and Silver Platter performed by Khaled. Really not into either of these. I feel like they're just so mediocre, instrumentally speaking, lyrically speaking, which I didn't expect there to be that many great lyrics on this soundtrack, because it's a soundtrack. I know what its purpose is. It just is supposed to support the film and sound good in the movie and with context of the movie. But yeah, I definitely don't get much out of these songs right here, and really, when I was listening to this one last time before I reviewed it, I was just waiting for it to get to the track Angel, performed by Pink Pantheress, which I like a lot. Her soft auto-tune vocals, I think, support the track really well in this lo-fi equivalent of a drum loop going on throughout the song. We also get more use of strings once again in the soundtrack in this track, Angel, that I think sound really great, and they add sort of a happy feeling to what is otherwise a not so happy song if you read into the lyrics. And I kind of like that it went in that direction and has sort of a uplifting, melancholic mood to it, if that makes any sense. Butterflies by Gale is kind of a miss for me. Not really liking the Butterfly by Crazy Town interpolation on here. I will say the song does have a lot of energy, and Gale's vocals do bring it, in my opinion. But besides that, not too into it, kind of a generic rock instrumental too. That's it for the original version of this soundtrack that came out. There are some other songs that were added in other pressings and versions, releases, but originally that was the last song on here. So overall, the soundtrack I think is fairly enjoyable. There are numerous songs that I do like quite a bit on it, and some that I don't remember hearing in the movie, and I don't know if they were, but I liked hearing them here. A good amount of diversity in the album, but I do also like how some songs were tied together and had similarities, especially from a lyrical standpoint. A lot of them did revolve around Ken and Barbie. I don't know if this is something I would ever want to listen to again all the way through, just because as much as there are some very good songs on here, there are also quite a bit of misses for me and quite a bit of underwhelming moments. So I could maybe see myself just putting together a playlist of like top songs on here and getting a lot of enjoyment out of that. But sadly, not all of them worked for me. But as far as movie soundtracks go, this was not bad. This was perfectly fine. It is nowhere near as good as the movie itself, but I think it serves the movie well, and I personally did not mind it at all. Barbie the album for me would get a 6.5 out of 10. Very curious to know how you guys feel about this soundtrack. I know it has gotten fairly good reviews, actually. A lot of people seem to get some enjoyment out of this. And yeah, I understand. There's some great tracks on here. Few bad ones, some kind of mediocre ones, but lots of good ones too. So let me know how you feel about it and your favorite songs. I will say though, just listen at your own risk, because the KENergy is a real thing, and it's pretty infectious, and it's gotten to me kind of in the midst of my Renaissance phase right now. So just Ken at your own risk. That's what the advice I would give.
They're Kenning all over the place.
But yeah, I'm just gonna stop there. Peace out.